Hi everybody, Kirsty, Goddess of Neptune here. So it is Saturday, the 6th of May, 2023, and just bringing you an astrology overview, but this is a special one, special edition one, related to the coronation. So for those of you not aware, here in the UK, King Charles III has been crowned officially with his coronation ceremony in London. So we have had quite a lot of let's just say, build up to this in terms of, you know, the formalities and the tradition that go with such ceremonies. And for myself, of course, you know, I'm going to try and take a biased view on here because I'm just going to show the astrology and my interpretations of what I see. Okay, and you can take it if it resonates, leave it if it doesn't. And I will try and keep my personal views out of this. But of course, everybody will have their own views on such an event. There's certainly a spectacle to beholden with everything that goes into it, but it is part of the tradition of the United Kingdom, or Great Britain. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I am going to just pull up the chart for the actual coronation as an event, okay? And let's have a look here. So we've got this one. Okay, so the coronation actually started officially at 11 AM GMT or British Standard Time today, 6th of May 2023. We've just had, of course, a full moon with lunar eclipse, full moon in Scorpio with lunar eclipse. Now, it's interesting when I get onto King Charles's chart as well, but this is just the event itself of the coronation, okay, as a natal chart, if you like. So we've got quite a lot going on here. And what I was drawn to was, of course, Pluto, because Pluto is in retrograde and Pluto has been calling for that deep transformation within all of us, so within the collective, globally. And for the UK, obviously there's things going on and I'll come onto the UK chart, but in terms of an actual event, there is a square here. If I zoom in, I don't know if you can see, so Pluto is in the 6th house there, and there is a square going to the south node, which is in the 4th house, and there's also squares going up to the 10th house where Jupiter and the north node are residing. Now the 10th house is work, inner authority, okay, and the 4th house are foundations, can be taking action as well, and it can represent family also. But when you think of our foundations, you know, things are changing. So this square that we've got here from Pluto to the south node and Pluto to the north node and Jupiter there as well, there is almost a challenging feel to transformation. And of course, quite literally on this coronation, things are transforming, aren't they? Because although King Charles has been King Charles for a while, this is the official coronation. This is the official ceremony where he is crowned king. So it's a big change, even though he's already in that position, but it's a big change for the country. So in terms of an event, when I saw that, I thought, well, yeah, that makes sense because it's challenging, or it can be challenging energy to transformation because, of course, what we've always known as a nation and others around the globe that kind of follow the UK's events, etc., you know, what we've always known has changed. And certainly with that change from Queen Elizabeth II to King Charles III, this is a very transformative time within history. But it can just have that challenging feel because Queen Elizabeth II was a monarch for 70 odd years, you know, so quite astounding for the British people, and everything that the monarchy stand for, whether you follow the monarchy, whether you like the monarchy or whether you don't. This is just, you know, in terms of the event, it's quite a big deal for the country as a collective, okay? Now, also what we've got going on is we've got the moon in the 4th house as well. So it's still in Scorpio at the moment, or at the time of the coronation, certainly it was still in Scorpio towards the end degrees of Scorpio. So there is still that depth to the emotions, and you know, it could be bringing up some kind of deep-rooted emotions. Now, of course, this could relate to just generally the change because of the square that's going on with Pluto. But also, you know, in terms of Princess Diana and the feelings that a lot of people in the country still hold for Diana. She was very loved and very cherished. And this is a massive change because, of course, King Charles III is now being crowned, and his queen will be queen. She won't be queen consort anymore. She will be queen. And she is at this moment in time as I'm recording it, because it's already happened. So again, quite emotional time for some people, maybe deep-rooted emotions coming up, because that can be quite challenging also to accept that change, to accept that transformation. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to labour on this chart too much, but I'm going to pull up the chart for King Charles, okay, and the coronation. So as I said, coronation happened 11 o'clock this morning, 6th of May, Greenwich Mean Time, British Standard Time. We've got King Charles's natal chart. So King Charles's natal chart is in the middle, and apologies, eagle-eyed viewers out there. I haven't put King Charles III on the top, I've just put King Charles. So we'll have to just go with it. But we all know who we're talking about, don't we? So the inner wheel is Charles's wheel, and the outer wheel is the coronation as an event. And as I do with other events, like when we have the new moon or the full moon, this is a snapshot of the cosmos at that time. And I've gone with 11 o'clock because that's the official time of the ceremony. So I mentioned before about the North Node and the South Node, and of course the square to Pluto. So when we look at what's going on here, and we see Charles's natal planets and degrees, etc. What was very interesting to me straight away, and I will zoom in, is you can see in the 10th house there of work and authority, we've got the North Node. Of course, you know, when you think of transiting through, that's a snapshot of the cosmos. The North Node, 4 degrees of Taurus. And what is King Charles's North Node? Also 4 degrees Taurus. So the minutes might be different here. However, this is a nodal return going on, okay? So we'll have the same down here for the South Node, 4 degrees of Scorpio, 4 degrees of Scorpio in the 4th house. So his very foundation is changing beyond belief, and it is, quite literally, through this coronation. His authority is having to come forward in terms of his purpose, his soul's purpose. Okay, so he's always been the heir to the throne, and now he is the monarch. So this is very much a fated, destined moment for him. And this is why I love astrology. And I get it that not everybody likes it, not everybody believes in it. That's people's choice, that's their free will. But this for me is a perfect example of how astrology can show you what is destined to happen in our lives. So this moment, who could have foreseen that it would have been happening today? Well, it was written in the stars, quite literally. So there we go. And we have the proof here when we look at the charts. Nodal return, okay, moving from where he's come from in the past to now in the present, regarding his purpose, heir to the throne, becoming the monarch. That is definitely relating to his purpose, because that has been his purpose for all his life. He was one day going to become king, and now he is. So this official coronation of that seals the deal in terms of the destiny that was always meant for him. Okay, and it may not be without its challenges, you know, because we've got the square to Pluto. So yes, there's challenge in this transformation, because again, the nation has been used to Queen Elizabeth II, and now there is that changing over to King Charles. So everything within the foundation of this has had to change. So he may have been feeling that, and he's a Scorpio, okay, and the moon in Scorpio, and that's where we have the full moon lunar eclipse as well. But what you'll notice at the bottom is the moon here as it's transiting through at this moment in time, because bearing in mind this was 11 o'clock this morning, okay, on the 6th of May. The moon at that point of the start of the coronation was conjunct, not exact conjunct, but conjunct his Chiron. So in the fifth house of love. Okay, so he may have had these kind of wounds, or on his healing journey, could be very much connected to love of some kind. And the moon heightening those emotions when it comes to that. So bearing in mind, you know, he's now king officially, you know, with the coronation of this country, of this nation. And that can be a very emotional thing as well. It's a massive event, so it's going to bring emotion for that reason. You got lots of eyes on you, and it's a big deal. It has to be done right. You know, there is this pageantry, there is this process, there are sort of rules to what happens, you know. So it's a big deal, a lot of pressure potentially. And it could just be kind of a bit overwhelming in terms of emotions, especially because Chiron's there. So maybe because this moment has been building for so many years and now it's finally here, it's almost that kind of release of emotion in a way, even though that emotion could be hidden. Okay, so I know that sounds a bit alien, but it's Scorpio energy. So he may be really feeling the emotion of that because, of course, in order to become king, his mum passed away. So, you know, it's a very emotional time and a big deal. And also, you know, public opinion in terms of his partner kind of differs quite a bit across the country. So that's also a big deal as well, because he took the decision to, of course, you know, name her, title her, whatever you want to call it, queen instead of queen consort, which was actually, as far as I'm aware, against what Queen Elizabeth II wanted. But King Charles is obviously making his own rules now. He is the monarch after all. So his foundation definitely changing, but a destined moment. No getting away from this. This is here. This is the soul's blueprint, folks. This is why I'm very passionate about astrology being, you know, the soul's blueprint, because here we have an absolutely destined moment that was meant for him. It was meant for him in this lifetime. However long it lasts, because it could be short, but it was destined. This moment was destined. Now, the other thing that drew my attention was, and I've got it here on the right-hand side, I'll zoom in, sorry. We've got here in the 8th house, we've got Saturn, of course, transiting through in Pisces, because we know Saturn is now in the house of the divine, really kind of showing us the need to get into alignment with our spiritual truth, with our soul's truth. And of course, when Saturn was in Aquarius and then moved into Pisces, it was almost like opening the door. The full moon that had happened at that time, 55 minutes before, was almost shining the light, getting us ready in the interview room before Saturn walks into Pisces house and says, you know, hang on a minute, I'm in Pisces now. Have you learned those lessons from the past 3 years? Or do we need to go round the circle again? Do you need to still learn these lessons? Because I'm here now in the house of the divine, and this is time to awaken, you know, to your soul's truth. So that was quite intense when Saturn moved into Pisces. And of course, Saturn is now 5 degrees of Pisces, moving through, you know, quite slowly. But what was interesting here is the fact that Saturn is conjunct King Charles's Lilith in the 8th house. And I view the 8th house as a house of power. Okay, it can stand for passion as well, but I see it more as power. So already within his natal chart, he's got these kind of shadow aspects, because Lilith brings the shadows to the front, to the foreground, so to speak. And, you know, his Pars Fortunae is there. So his fortune lies in his power, basically. But the fact that Lilith is there, there is a shadow side here going on. And it's in Pisces, you know, Lilith is in Pisces. So this could actually work in his favor if there are shadow aspects coming up, because perhaps that's allowing him to align more into his spiritual truth. Or it could be, okay, more on that deceptive side, because Lilith brings up the dark feminine aspects, brings up the shadows, is a great teacher, because of course Lilith will show us things and maybe we don't want to see them. So it's almost like, okay, bringing up these kind of wounds to kind of put us into this self-doubt or, you know, anything like that, but a great teacher, because without Lilith, we wouldn't be aware of those things. So he may have been kind of experiencing that all his life because, you know, it's in his natal chart in the 8th house alongside his Pars Fortunae. So he's got to indulge a bit in his shadow side in order to bring fortune to his life. Now Saturn is there kind of on top of his Lilith in the house of power. It's almost bringing a bit of a karmic feel to this for me. That was my first thought. And again, I'm just using my own intuitive interpretations of this, okay? But my first thought was that it's bringing a karmic feel to his shadow side within his own house of power, all right? Because his Pars Fortuna is there. So, you know, he gets his luck and his fortune from that shadow side in his power. And maybe there's some deception, maybe there's some illusion going on because the shadow side of the Piscean energy is that. So just, you know, take it with a pinch of salt. You don't have to believe that, or, you know, you can believe it, whatever you want to do. This is just me looking at what's here, because Saturn does rule karma. Saturn is also very regimented and structured. So the other thing, of course, with him being a monarch and having to follow processes, that is a very regimented life anyway. So, of course, Saturn at the moment is enhancing that because, and it's in accordance with his soul's truth, because we know this is a destined moment for him. So the fact that Saturn is there, almost bringing structure to his power and to his fortune, okay, could actually be enabling the shadow side to work for him in that way, because we need to embrace our shadow side. That's what helps us. The shadow tells us the truth, but we just need to be mindful of any deception going on there, because of course it's the Pisces energy, and the shadow side of that can be deception, illusion, confusion, etc. Of course, the 8th house is opposite the 2nd house of worth and values, and that is where King Charles's Saturn in his natal chart resides. So there's opposition there already. And that's the other fascinating thing to draw your attention to, because Saturn transiting through Pisces in the 8th house is 5 degrees. Saturn in King Charles's natal chart is 5 degrees Virgo. So we've got that direct opposition between the Saturns. So think of it like a Saturn face-off. And Virgo energy, if we're going to look at the shadow side, because of the opposition with Lilith, Virgo can be quite critical. And there is that sort of need to clean house, of course, as well with Virgo. And we know that Virgo rules the 6th house, which is about sort of daily routines and schedules. So again, not surprising with Saturn there, even though we've got the 2nd house, there's some aspect here with what's going on in the power house. There's some aspect of that regimented feel. So that makes sense from a structure point of view. And that might be more comfortable to him than the Piscean side of the flow, you know. But with the opposition, that could just bring some challenging energy, because it's kind of his Saturn is wanting to almost be structured and to get things done. And, you know, from a worth and values perspective, I know who I am, you know, I'm the king sort of thing. I want to get things done. And Saturn transiting through on top of Lilith might just be saying, okay, that's great because I'm in your house of power at the moment, so I can help you with that. But let's just address a bit of karma first. So there could be some of that going on. And again, that might be hidden. That might be, you know, behind the scenes, as it were, because of Lilith being there, the shadows. Okay, so that's what I would just say on that one. I did also notice that Venus, okay, in the 11th house transiting through, of course, Venus is in Gemini, getting to the final degree there. So 28 degrees, only got one more degree to go, and then we'll move into Cancer to meet with Mars. But at the moment, she is transiting through the 11th house, and she is practically on top of Charles's Uranus. So when it comes to change in connections with others, Uranus, 11th house, The divine feminine energy of Venus is there supporting that energy of change. So again, that makes sense, doesn't it, with this being a destined moment, because the feminine nurturing side of the energy is nurturing the change that's necessary to balance things out, because we've got Gemini going on, looking at both sides, you know, but nurturing change in connections with others. So he's had to, and he is having to, form connections with others as the king, as the monarch. And although he's always been part of the royal family and of course heir to the throne, so this was always a moment that was, you know, going to happen, there is that kind of need for nurturing, and that could be because of what I mentioned before going on in the 5th house with the moon on his Chiron, because it could be a very emotional time because of what it stands for. It's a big deal. He had to lose his mother in order to get this position, but he was always destined to be king because that's written in his chart in the stars as well. So the feminine energy could be, you know, when you think of the tangible form, from his partner now, from his queen. So that could be helping the change that's going on within connections with others. But of course, you know, his Uranus being at 29 degrees, that could be a difficult degree at the final degrees of a sign. And he might just be feeling, you know, that kind of inner resistance to change because of everything that's been going on and because of what it stands for. And it's right on the cusp with the 12th house. So, you know, that's when we get into the subconscious realm, the deep hidden realm, the spiritual realm. So, you know, it was meant to be in his 11th house of connections with other people. You know, that change, constant evolution within connections with other people was always there in his chart. So if you find that interesting, then that's great. But that's certainly what I took from it. Now, what I will do now is I'm going to bring up the chart for the UK. So that was how it affected King Charles based on his astrology. Let's now have a look at what it meant for the UK. Okay. So again, we've got the inner wheel here, which is the UK's natal chart, and then we've got the coronation on the outer wheel. So a bit like I did with King Charles's, this is now just showing what the coronation meant for the UK. The moon still in the 5th house here, so this is very interesting. And we have still got, you know, Uranus in the 11th house transiting through for the UK. So Charles had that in his natal chart, change. And for the UK, Uranus is there calling for change in connections with others. And that's why during this whole kind of transformative period recently, when I've done my astrology reviews before, and I've kind of mentioned about that transformation, that Pluto's calling for transformation in the 7th house of relationships, Uranus is calling for change in connections with others. You know, we need to kind of have that non-illusory foundation, because South Node is in the 4th house, of course. So there are some similarities with the houses between the two. But I wanted to kind of look at Saturn. And excuse me, I have something in the back of my throat. Maybe there's that expression from the throat chakra that's needed. But Saturn, so, you know, on the right-hand side here, Saturn is still in the 8th house for the UK. So not surprising, really, because, of course, it's a big deal for King Charles because it's his powerhouse, but it's also the powerhouse when you look at the UK. Although there's no planets in the 8th house for the UK, this is just Saturn transiting through. So, you know, when you combine that with what's going on with King Charles, of course, you know, there is that sort of change, that kind of regimented, karmic, sort of structured way of being for the UK today. Makes complete sense, doesn't it? Because it is a ceremony that is part of British history, it's part of our pageantry, our tradition. And it's in the house of power. So it's the monarchy, you know, it's power, isn't it? So that makes complete sense when you look at it from the UK's point of view. And also, you know, the fact that Pluto, transformation with relationships with others, people, places, things. So our relationship with the monarchy in that respect is transforming, because we have officially have a king. You know, we've always had a king for the past X number of months, but this is the official crowning ceremony and all of that. And because, you know, the moon is there obviously in the 5th house, as it is for Charles as well, and that's on his Chiron, we've actually got Pallas in the 5th house of the UK's chart. We've got other things there as well, but it's the moon is on top of Pallas here. So that's more of that goddess Aphrodite energy. It's asteroid energy. So that could be kind of heightening those feminine feelings and emotions when it comes to love, and perhaps what we think of or feel about the country on a day such as this. So it can be a very emotional time for other people as well, especially royalists, you know, who follow the royal family. You know, they're really kind of pro-monarchy and all of that. It's a big moment of history. So that could be why we have that there. You know, it's the feminine side within of nurturing of the emotions, but deep-rooted emotions also, because it's in Scorpio. And knowing that in the opposite house, which is the 11th house, where Uranus is, calling for change. So there is change naturally happening today. And we have Venus in the UK's natal chart. So that's more feminine energy. So we're nurturing ourselves through this change because it's a big change for the country, for the nation. Venus herself is over here on the 12th, in the 12th house, still in Gemini at the moment, as I was saying, and is conjunct the natal chart Mars. So again, that feminine energy nurturing the masculine energy through, and maybe with the masculine energy of the kind of unhealthy ego that could have been going on subconsciously, because we know Mars himself has been in the 12th house as well. Mars is in Cancer, so is being nurtured by that Cancerian energy. You know, Cancer is the moon's home, and that is divine feminine energy. And then we have Venus there. So Mars and Venus are both in the 12th house, calling for that balance, but enabling that balance to also nurture, as well as looking at both sides of the equation here, but nurturing the transformation happening within the masculine. So that kind of drive that we have to do things, to take action. This could be supporting that because it's change, you know, it's a bit of a milestone in history, and maybe it's kind of fueling change that people, you know, want to make in their lives, naturally as a result of this ceremony. But it's more so what's going on with Saturn, of course, when you look at King Charles's chart and just that profound destiny that is shown in the charts, but recognizing that, of course, it's an emotional day for a lot of people concerned. Wouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people concerned. So collectively, there's a lot of deep emotion in the air. And we see that with the moon being in the 5th house also for the UK's chart. So it's kind of, it's mirrored within the UK in terms of what he's going through, but he's got more of that healing element within his 5th house to pay attention to as well. Interestingly, it's where the UK's Pars Fortunae is, but also the UK's Saturn is in the 5th house. So again, there could be this kind of karmic feel to what's going on also, which could be playing on emotions because of the change that's being experienced. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And apologies, because I had a biscuit earlier and I seem to have a little bit at the back of my throat, but there we are. You know, I digress. Today's been a day for a lot of people, probably traditional Brits, having, you know, kind of cream tea, which is of course scone with the cream and the jam, perhaps just a cup of tea but in a teapot, you know, going out that extra mile and having it in a teapot. I don't know. However people have been celebrating, if they have or if they haven't, it's certainly been a day that was destined to happen on this day at that time. So that coronation was meant to happen. It was written in the stars. Let's see what the cards say. Do you know what I'm going to use? Gilded Tarot Royale. Before I take some cards, I will just remind everybody that, of course, King Charles's coronation, King Charles III, his coronation today, of course. But let's not forget that we are all sovereign beings. When you look at the soul's truth, we're all sovereign beings. So maybe if we're not celebrating him being crowned, we can actually take pride in crowning ourselves as sovereign beings that we are. And that's important to bear in mind as well. That's showing ourselves that self-love, because we're honoring ourselves as sovereign beings and we're recognizing that we're worth a lot. And that's important to bear in mind. So just wanted to leave you with a bit of that. Let's see what the Gilded Tarot Royal has for today, Coronation Day. Let's see, what messages do we have, please, from the pure white light for the collective? And it is collective energy. So take what resonates and leave what doesn't. But for the collective, please, wherever you are in the world, for the collective, on Coronation Day, what do we have? Oh, let's see what we have. Important to mention as well, I don't know if I mentioned it before, the square that was going on, because I was just reminded then, Spirit reminded me of Jupiter. So I think it was King Charles's chart with the coronation event and the square going on. And of course, there was the North Node, but also Jupiter as well. So that expansion of truth when it comes to purpose, very much, you know, the destined moment, as we know, but the challenging energy could be around the transformation that's enabled him to get to that point. And, you know, when we think of Jupiter and how Jupiter can be in our own lives, you know, there's luck, there's hope. With regards to Jupiter, there's great expansive energy. So let's use that expansive energy for our own inner authority and our own purpose. And again, show ourselves that self-love by putting the crown on our heads and recognizing we are sovereign beings. Interesting. Knight of Pentacles with the Eight of Wands both reversed. Okay, let's see, what else do we have? Why do we have Knight of Pentacles in reverse with Eight of Wands in reverse? Thank you. Oh, that's very interesting. Judgment in reverse. That is interesting. Okay, anything more on that, please? There is, just falling on the floor. Bear with me. Wow, Eight of Pentacles in reverse. Okay. Oh, okay. On the bottom, Knight of Swords in reverse. We've got reversals, folks. Okay. So there is almost this sense of stagnancy here. So, you know, this is, again, it's a bit of a pause moment. And I think potentially for those that kind of stopped everything and was watching the coronation, of course, that's a pause moment in their lives because they are viewing what's going on in someone else's life, and also what's going on for the country, of course. But this is a bit deeper than that, I feel. So, you know, the Knight of Pentacles is definitely the most reliable knight out of the deck, but it's very slow moving. But with that comes reliability. And it's not to say that something's going on that's unreliable. Of course, take what resonates for you in this situation. But there is stagnancy here because we have two movement cards, because knights can be messengers and represent movement, both in reverse. So, you know, there is some stagnancy here going on. And that could be because we've not fully answered that calling from our soul. This came out the other day from a different deck, but the Judgment card did come out. So it's all about answering the call to our soul, or from our soul. You know, our soul speaks to us via our intuition. Are we listening to it? This is answering the call and getting in alignment with our soul's truth. Because at the moment, there is no movement forward because that calling hasn't been answered. And therefore, work and effort isn't being applied in the right direction. And on the bottom in the hidden energy, Knight of Swords in reverse. Knight of Swords is the fastest knight in the deck. So we have the slowest and we have the fastest, but this was also in reverse. So that's also representing slow movement, stagnancy, because he would usually be in the upright, trundling along, you know, getting somewhere quite fast. Now, underneath that is 5 of Swords in reverse. So there is a need to come out of mental kind of inner conflict and overthinking. 4 of Swords, rest and recuperation, and 10 of Swords in reverse because something needs to end. Now, underneath that, bearing in mind that is a lot of Swords energy, underneath that is victory, 6 of Wands. So that is what's going to bring victory, moving out of all this overthinking and stress. And actually, the one that's in the upright there is the 4 of Swords. That is resting, okay, to avoid burnout. It's rest and recuperation. It's that introspection, which of course the retrogrades allow us to do. We're in Mercury retrograde still for a bit longer, and we're in Pluto retrograde up until October. So that allows us to really kind of go within and introspect, but recognize that there is a lot of Swords energy here. So there's a lot of overthinking, stress, anxiety, sleepless nights, that kind of thing, inner conflict, you know, getting wrapped up in the thoughts. And that's why work and effort isn't being applied, because the soul's calling has not been answered. There's too much stress going on and therefore stagnancy. But remember, the victory card was there. So victory can be achieved in what you want once you can break through that energy. Okay, let's see. What do we have from the wisdom of the Oracle? Okay, wisdom of the Oracle. Wisdom of the Oracle. What do we have? That was done on the floor. Imagine. Okay. Do you know what's coming to me from this? It's something that I learned in my sort of creative studies, is blue sky thinking. I don't know if you've heard of that phrase. They also use it within film and TV, blue sky casting, I think it might be called. So it's almost that, you know, that vision, having that vision of what you want to achieve, but knowing that it's already yours. So imagine it coming to fruition. And I've got very weird stuff going on in my ears at the moment. Okay, so something's happening in the energy. Imagine, this is about our imagination, dreaming it into being. There's another one that's poking out. Wow, this is absolutely today, isn't it? Serendipity, fated moment. You know, things are meant to happen. And things happen when they're meant to happen. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. Okay, let's see. One more, please, from the wisdom of the Oracle. One more, please, from the wisdom of the Oracle. Oh, that's too many. But what I do have, the one that actually flipped out, is regeneration in reverse. I will show it you. Okay, so it's regeneration in reverse. So there's resistance to change. But know that this is a moment that is destined to be, and change is needed because we want to be happy. That's happy, happy reversed. We want to be happy. So in order to get to that point of regeneration and actually realizing, that's just fallen again, realizing that we can dream our dreams into being, okay, through our imagination, through our intuition and, you know, our spiritual foresight in that way, okay, but we need to not resist change, because change is part of it, isn't it? Okay, let's see with the Astro Codes deck. Okay, what do we have? And I must admit, today the weather's been quite strange because it's been raining a lot of the day, certainly where I am here. And it's also very close. If I say close, that kind of means like it's that, it feels muggy enough that there could be a thunderstorm, that kind of thing, and that's how it feels, hence why my hair is a bit kind of like anyway, I digress again. Let's see, what do we have from the Astro Codes, please? Coronation Day, what can you tell us, please? What do the collective need to know? Any messages, please? Let's see, that one's poking out. Oh, okay, discomfort there, debilitated discomfort. So that's in reverse. So yeah, coming out of those feelings of uncomfortableness, again, through resistance of change, potentially. Oh, South Node past and retrograde in reverse. So yeah, it's actually, you know, a lot of past life stuff's coming up at the moment, or even just people or things from our past is coming up, because retrogrades help us, you know, look at those things. So they come under the microscope for a reason. And that might be going on for you, and it could be a bit uncomfortable, hence why that's in reverse. So we've got Capricorn in reverse, achieve. So we're feeling like we want to achieve something in our lives, but maybe feeling a bit stuck. And the stagnancy that came out in the tarot deck could, of course, relate to that. But we need to drive ourselves forward. We need to make sure that we kind of, you know, go for what we want to go for. Again, it's dreaming our dreams into being, and recognizing we're worthy of those dreams as a sovereign being as well. We've got Pallas Athena. So interesting how I noted Pallas was there in the 5th house of the UK, okay, in the natal chart of the UK, and that's where the moon was at the time of the coronation. So it says here, think, okay, but the goddess Aphrodite energy that comes with that is about love. So being in the 5th house is quite a homely place to be. It just might be that emotions have been coming up regarding this change today. It could be quite a big thing for some people. Now we have, wow, we have the sun energy. So that's big sun energy there of the soul's essence wanting to shine. And I've put the card away now, but the judgment card, okay, the soul wants to shine, the soul wants to speak to you. Allow yourself to listen to what the soul's telling you through your intuition. And you may need to go within 12th house, introspection, because it was in reverse. And you may need to just embrace more of that spirituality within yourself through meditation. And on the bottom, 8th house, can't make this up. So, you know, 8th house, all of that power stuff going on that I mentioned. So we've got that, and Pluto in reverse underneath, rebirth. Yeah, deep transformation that's going on, where there might be a little bit of resistance because it's change. And people don't like change, but we need to embrace change. We need to embrace the regeneration that's happening, because it's happening for a reason, and it's happening for our highest good, even if it feels uncomfortable. But we need to embrace that transformation, and more importantly, get in alignment with our soul's truth. And that way, if we're coming from a place of divine alignment with our soul's truth, we're going to be guided forward by spirit, via our intuition, via our higher self, via our guides and angels, whoever you might converse with. And we can step forward knowing that we are going towards our goals. We're not just doing things for the sake of it or because other people tell us to. It's coming from us. It's coming from our truth. And that's what's going to naturally bring that regeneration in a divine way. And it will allow for destined moments to happen, to come to fruition. So you might be feeling like there's a lot going on because, you know, we're being encouraged by the energy of the astrology, certainly, and generally the energy around, to transform and change for a reason. So it might be worth looking at your astrology chart and seeing when your nodal returns are going to be happening, because maybe that's building you up for an absolutely key destined moment, just like King Charles has had today. The sun wants to shine. Let your soul talk to you. Receive those messages. Hope you're all good. And as I say, you know, whether you like the monarchy or not, whether you follow the monarchy or not, doesn't really matter. Everybody's got their own choice and their own free will. This is just a special astrology overview to look at the energy of the coronation today, of course, using the astrology, the natal charts for the UK and for King Charles III. Okay, my intuitive interpretations, but of course, take your own view on it as you will, because it's your free will, your free choice. So I will see you soon. I will speak to you soon, and take care for the rest of this retrograde period, certainly Mercury retrograde, because I'm stumbling on my words already. But, you know, don't be afraid to go within and certainly assess those things that are coming up from the past. They're coming up for a reason, to be transmuted, but they need to be acknowledged first and foremost for what they are in order to release and transmute accordingly. So sending you love and blessings, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you soon.